Here, with my humble outlook, I have considered the differences between the teachings expounded by the Buddha Shakyamuni during the first 40 and more years and those expounded in the Lotus Sutra during the last 8 years of his life. Although both differ in many ways, contemporary scholars have already expressed the opinion, and it is my conviction as well, that the chief difference lies in the fact that the Lotus Sutra teaches that persons of the two vehicles can attain Bodhisattva, and that the Buddha Shakyamuni in reality attained enlightenment at an inconceivably distant time in the past. When we examine the text of the Lotus Sutra, we see that it predicts that Shariputra will become to this come one flower glow, that Mahakashyapa will become to this come one light bright, Subhuti will become to this come one rare form, Katyayana will become to this come one Jambanita gold light, Madhyayana will become to Malapatras endowed with fragrance Buddha, Purna will become to this come one light bright, Ananda will become mountain sea wisdom unrestricted power King Buddha, Rahula will become to this come one stepping on 7 treasure flowers. The 500 and 700 voice hearers will become this come one's universal brightness. The 2000 who have more to learn or do not have more to learn will become this come one's jewel sign. The nuns Mahaprayapati and Yashadhara will become this come one's gladly seen by all living beings and endowed with 1,000 and 10,000 glowing marks, respectively. Thus, if we examine the Lotus Sutra, we will realize that these persons are worthy of great honor. But when we search through the scriptures expounded in the period previous to the Lotus Sutra, we find to our regret that the situation is far different. The Buddha, the world-honored one, is a man of truthful words. Therefore, he is designated the sage and the great man. In the non-Buddhist scriptures of India and China, there are also persons called worthies, sages, or heavenly ascetics, because they speak words of truth. But because the Buddha surpasses all these, he is known as the great man. When he expounded the Lotus Sutra, this great man said, the Buddhas, the world-honored ones, appear in the world for one great reason alone. He also said, I have not yet revealed the truth. The world-honored one has long expounded his doctrines, and now must reveal the truth, and honestly discard expedient means. I will preach only the unsurpassed way. Many treasures Buddha added as testimony to the words of the Buddha, and the emanations of the Buddha put forth their tongues as a token of assent. Who, then, could possibly doubt that Shariputra will in the future become to this come one flower glow, that Mahakashyapa will become to this come one light bright, or that the other predictions made by the Buddha will come true? Nevertheless, all the sutras preceding the Lotus Sutra also represent the true words of the Buddha. The great and vast Buddha Flower Garland Sutra states, there are only 2 places where the great medicine king tree, which is the wisdom of this come one, will not grow and bring benefit to the world. It will not grow in the vast void that is the deep pit into which persons of the 2 vehicles fall, or in the profoundly distorted and craven-filled waters wherein drowned beings unfit for Bodhisattva who destroy their own roots of goodness. This passage may be explained as follows. In the snow mountains, there is a huge tree that has numberless roots. It is called the Great Medicine King Tree and is the monarch of all the trees that grow in the land of Jambudvipa. It measures 168,000 yojanism high. All the other trees and plants of Jambudvipa depend upon the roots, branches, flowers, and fruit of this tree to attain their own flowering and fruition. Therefore, this tree is employed as a metaphor for the Buddha nature, and the various other trees and plants stand for all living beings. But this great tree will not grow in a fiery pit or in the watery circle. The fiery pit is used as a metaphor for the mind of persons of the 2 vehicles, and the watery circle is used as a metaphor for the mind of Ekantikas, for persons of incorrigible disbelief. The scriptures say that these 2 categories of beings will never attain Bodhisattva. The Great Collection Sutra states, There are two types of persons who are destined to die and not to be reborn, and who in the end will never be able to understand or repay their obligations. One is the voice hearer, and the other is the cause-awakened one. Suppose that a person falls into a deep pit. That person will be unable to benefit himself or to benefit others. The voice hearer and the cause-awakened one are like this. They fall into the pit of emancipation and can benefit neither themselves nor others. The more than 3,000 volumes of Confucian and Taoist literature of China on the whole stress two principles, namely, filial piety and loyalty to the sovereign. But loyalty is nothing more than an extension of filial piety. Filial piety may be described as lofty. Though heaven is lofty, it is no loftier than the ideal of filial piety. Filial piety may be called deep. Though earth is deep, it is no deeper than filial piety. Sages and worthies are the product of filial piety. It goes without saying, therefore, that persons who study the teachings of Buddhism must also observe the ideal of filial piety and understand and repay their obligations. The disciples of the Buddha must without fail understand the four debts of gratitude and know how to repay them. In addition, Shariputra, Mahakashyapa, and the other disciples who were persons of the two vehicles carefully observed the 250 precepts and the 3,000 rules of conduct, mastered the three types of meditation, known as flavor meditation, pure meditation, and free of outflows meditation, in the Agame Sutras, and freed themselves from the illusions of thought and desire in the threefold world. They must therefore have been models in the understanding and repaying of obligations. And yet the world-daunted one declared that they were men who did not understand obligation. He said this because, when a man leaves his parents and home and becomes a monk, he should always have as his goal the salvation of his father and mother. But these men of the two vehicles, although they thought they had attained emancipation, did nothing to benefit others. And even if they had done a certain amount to benefit others, they had led their parents to a path whereby they could never attain Buddhahood. Thus, contrary to what one might expect, they became known as men who did not understand their obligations. In the Vimalakirti Sutra we read, Vimalakirti once more questioned Manjushri, saying, "What are the seeds of Buddhahood?" Manjushri replied, "All the delusions and defilements are the seeds of Buddhahood." Even though a person commits the 5 cardinal sins and is condemned to the hell of incessant suffering, he is still capable of conceiving the great desire for the way. The same sutra also says, "Good man, let me give you a metaphor. The plains and highlands will never bring forth the stems and blossoms of the blue lotus or the water lily. But the muddy fields that are low-lying and damp, that is where you will find these flowers growing." It also says, one who has already become an arhat and achieved the level of truth that goes with arhatship can never conceive the desire for the way and gain Buddhahood. He is like a man who has destroyed the 5 sense organs and therefore can never again enjoy the 5 delights that go with them.